We're now going to explore some more recent theories of work motivation that not only make us rethink motivation, but also show us how it can play out in the real world. Next in line, we have reinforcement theory. Born from the behaviorist movement in the 1950s, this theory really started making waves in the workplace in the 1970s. The cool thing about reinforcement theory is that it sees motivation as a dynamic, ever-changing process that evolves over time. So imagine this. You work hard and receive a shiny reward, like a paycheck or a bonus or even a heartfelt thank you. That reward satisfies a need and in doing so reinforces your hard work. You're now motivated to keep working hard, which leads to better performance, more rewards, and so on. Reinforcement theory assumes that workers are likely to repeat behaviors that receive positive feedback or rewards, which is known as reinforcement. Organizations can harness this concept through what's called behavior modification programs designed to optimize motivation levels. By adjusting the reinforcement schedules, so how often and under what conditions rewards are provided, organizations can boost motivation. Take, for example, a barista who gets tips daily. Each time they receive a tip, they experience reinforcement for their excellent customer service, making them more likely to continue that behavior. On the other hand, a teacher might receive a paycheck once a fortnight, which acts as a reinforcement for their efforts in educating their students. While the schedules of these rewards are different, both the barista and the teacher are motivated by the reinforcements they receive. In essence, reinforcement schedules can be tailored to fit various jobs and industries. By understanding the unique needs of employees and offering rewards at the right time and frequency, organizations can effectively keep motivation levels high and encourage desirable behaviors that contribute to overall success. Theories like expectancy theory and reinforcement theory have inspired pay-for-performance programs in organizations. These programs crank up employee motivation by offering rewards that are directly linked to performance, like commissions for salespeople or piece rate plans for factory workers, where you get paid based on the amount you produce, or profit sharing for startup employees. Competency-based compensation is another powerful approach, where employees are paid according to their skills or knowledge. This encourages them to level up their abilities. For instance, imagine a software developer who gets a pay raise for mastering a new programming language. Incentive schemes like these encourage continuous learning and improvement. Organizations also love using stock options, allowing employees to profit when the organization's stock value increases. Picture a graphic designer at a successful tech company whose stock options skyrocket alongside the company's success. These are just a few of the creative ways organizations can use rewards to fuel their employees' motivation. In an important meta-analysis of behavior modification programs inspired by reinforcement theory, the authors proposed a comprehensive model outlining how organizational behavior modification can be effectively carried out. So let's break this down step by step. First, identify the target behavior. Is it reducing errors or maybe increasing production? 2, measure the target behavior, so you have a benchmark for tracking the progress. 3, analyze and intervene. Create a plan and put that behavior modification into motion. 4, evaluate. Has the desired behavior been achieved? Was the program a success? The results of this meta-analysis showed that reinforcement theory, often referred to as organizational behavior modification in practice, does work. Interestingly, it works better in manufacturing jobs like assembly line workers compared to service jobs such as call center or sales positions. Why would this be? One possible explanation is that manufacturing work might be less intrinsically motivating. It can be more mundane, repetitive, and isolating, and as a result, people in these roles might be more responsive to external rewards. But it's not just about the job type. Reinforcement effectiveness also depends on the reward itself. Financial incentives and social rewards like recognition tend to pack the most punch, while feedback has been shown to have a weaker effect. While reinforcement theory has its merits, it's essential to consider some of the criticisms leveled against it as well. Like expectancy theory, reinforcement theory assumes a narrow view of motivation, primarily focused on extrinsic rewards, such as money or praise as the main drivers. Critics argue that this approach neglects the importance of intrinsic motivation, which is driven by things like personal satisfaction, curiosity, or the joy of learning. Also, like expectancy theory, It has this one-size-fits-all approach where it neglects individual differences. The theory assumes that everyone responds similarly to the same reinforcements, but individuals have unique preferences, values, and needs, and a reward that motivates one person might not be as effective for someone else. Reinforcement theory tends to be more effective for immediate results, but may not lead to sustained long-term motivation. Over time, employees might become reliant on rewards and lose interest in tasks when the rewards aren't present, and this can actually undermine intrinsic motivation. Organizational behavior modification programs have also been criticized for their ethical implications. Some critics argue that these programs can be kind of sneaky and manipulative, taking advantage of our natural love for rewards to control how we behave. Besides that, there's also the question of what happens to our health and social lives in the long run when we're constantly chasing after these performance-based incentives. So reinforcement theory is not a perfect theory, but it is an influential one that continues to have a big impact on practice today. Now let's dive into self-determination theory, which stands in stark contrast to the theories we've discussed so far. Think of it as a captivating plot twist in the story of motivation. Self-determination theory, and more specifically cognitive evaluation theory, which is a mini-theory within self-determination theory, offers a different perspective. Imagine you're a part of a team of graphic designers at an advertising agency. You love your job and feel intrinsically motivated by the creative process of designing visually appealing ads. Now let's say that the company introduces a new bonus system where you get extra cash for completing a certain number of designs per week. At first, you might be excited about the prospect of earning more money. However, over time, you could start to focus more on churning out designs to earn bonuses rather than enjoying the creative process itself. And you might find that your motivation actually starts to suffer. Cognitive evaluation theory helps us to understand why this can happen. The theory explains that when an extrinsic reward is attached to a previously intrinsically rewarding activity, like designing visually appealing ads, it can actually decrease your enjoyment of that activity. The reason behind this phenomenon is rooted in the concept of perceived autonomy. When you're intrinsically motivated to do something, you're doing it because you genuinely enjoy the activity or find it fulfilling. In other words, you're engaging in that activity out of your own free will, driven by your internal desires and interests. However, when an extrinsic reward is introduced, it can shift your focus from the inherent enjoyment of that activity to that external reward. This shift can lead you to feel as if you're engaging in the activity not because you truly enjoy it, but because you want to obtain the reward. As a result, your perception of autonomy decreases, making you feel like you're being externally controlled or pressured to perform that activity. This change in perception can undermine your intrinsic motivation, leading to less enjoyment and satisfaction in the activity itself. So what does this mean for organizations and employee compensation? Well, expectancy and reinforcement theory suggest that rewards and performance-based pay can boost motivation. Self-determination theory cautions that this might backfire. So the million-dollar question becomes, are extrinsic rewards good or bad for motivation? As it turns out, there's a ton of research on this topic, including numerous meta-analyses. These studies aim to understand the relationship between rewards and motivation. Many of these meta-analyses found support for a negative relationship between rewards and motivation. This means that offering someone a reward to do something can actually make them less intrinsically motivated. This phenomenon is often referred to as the motivation undermining effect of cognitive evaluation theory. But some studies show positive effects, suggesting that rewards can enhance intrinsic motivation. Fast forward to more recent research, and some meta-analyses might suggest that rewards have no effect on motivation at all, neither negative nor positive. The prevailing view now is that we can be pretty confident that rewards don't enhance intrinsic motivation, at least not overall. As for whether the effect is negative or null, the evidence supports both possibilities. But here's another twist. Rewards can enhance performance in certain cases. For example, there's evidence that rewards improve performance in manual work, like the manufacturing jobs we mentioned earlier. Rewards can also sometimes be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, they can boost the quantity of work, making people work faster, But on the other hand, they might not improve the quality of work, or they might even reduce the quality of work. A recent meta-analysis suggests that organizations might be able to boost performance by tying it directly to rewards, but there's a catch. This could come at the expense of intrinsic motivation and might even impair people's well-being. There's also evidence that rewards could make work more stressful and negatively affect teamwork, and we've got more research to back this up. In the world of economics, studies show that offering really high stakes rewards, like massive bonuses, can actually lower performance due to increased stress. Meanwhile, in human resources, performance-related pay can lead to work intensification, which also makes work more stressful and leads to negative attitudes. Some recent evidence even points to an increase in the use of antidepressant and anti-anxiety medications among certain groups after organizations adopt pay-for-performance policies. It seems that these programs come with hidden costs, and in some cases they can be quite substantial. So how do we resolve this debate between reinforcement theory, which assumes that rewards are motivating, and cognitive evaluation theory, which argues that they're demotivating? The answer lies in the gray area. It depends. And this is why it's so important for IO psychologists to understand the nuances of motivation and rewards when creating a balanced and effective work environment that fosters both productivity and employee well-being. Cognitive evaluation theory was a precursor to a super influential theory of motivation that spans across various subdisciplines within psychology called self-determination theory. Self-determination theory is all about understanding what makes us intrinsically motivated. It proposes three basic psychological needs: autonomy, so feeling like we have choices and can call the shots; competence, feeling like we're good at life and getting the job done; and relatedness, feeling connected to others. According to the theory, our motivation at work largely depends on how well our workplace satisfies these basic needs. The real question is, how can we change the job to better satisfy these needs? Imagine you're working at a hip, modern tech company. They value autonomy by letting employees choose their projects and set their own hours. This creates a sense of ownership and personal investment in the work, leading to higher motivation. For competence, picture a workplace that offers regular training and development opportunities, helping employees sharpen their skills and feel like they're truly mastering their craft. It's like leveling up in a video game. The more proficient you become, the more you want to keep playing and progressing. And when it comes to relatedness, think about a company culture that encourages collaboration and fosters strong interpersonal connections. Weekly team building activities like escape rooms or group lunches can create a sense of camaraderie and make employees feel like they're part of something bigger. For those of you tackling the motivation topic in your assignment, one of the surveys available to you is based on self-determination theory. This survey measures different types or qualities of motivation, giving you insight into how well these psychological needs are being met. The more these needs are satisfied, the more someone develops an inner drive to excel at their work. Using self-determination theory, we can think of motivation as a spectrum, ranging from absolutely no motivation on one end to fully enjoying the task for its own sake on the other end. To make it more relatable, let's use studying as an example. On one hand of the spectrum, we have a total lack of motivation, or amotivation. You know those days where you just can't bring yourself to hit the books. But as we move through the spectrum, things get more interesting. We encounter four types of extrinsic motivation. First, we have external regulation, studying because your parents threaten to cut you off if you don't pass your exams. 2, introjected regulation, hitting the books out of a sense of obligation, like, I guess I have to study. 3 is identified regulation, realizing the importance of studying and embracing it as the right thing to do. 4 is integrated regulation, fully aligning your study with your goals and values. Like, I'm a psychology student, this is what we do. Notice how each step makes the motivation more internalized, but they're all still extrinsic since they don't require you to genuinely enjoy studying for its own sake. This side of the spectrum is often called controlled motivation because it's driven by external factors. But if you study simply for the joy of learning, you're experiencing autonomous motivation, which comes from within. Research shows that the more autonomous types of motivation lead to better academic achievement and job performance. Although self-determination theory has been applied to various areas of psychology, its use in IO psychology is still relatively new, and we're excited to see more data coming in about its effectiveness in the workplace. So next time you sit down to study, take a moment to reflect on where you fall on this motivation spectrum, and maybe you'll discover what truly drives you. Now let's address a burning question you might have at this point. Is increasing motivation actually going to boost performance? Well, let's look at the evidence and see what it says. A big landmark meta-analysis looked at the relationship between motivation and performance across various domains like sport, work, and school. The findings showed that intrinsic motivation was a medium to strong predictor of performance. So yes, motivation does matter. But it gets more interesting. Intrinsic motivation is more critical when incentives are indirectly tied to performance. For example, when rewards are based on participation instead of getting things right. However, when incentives depend on how well you perform, intrinsic motivation becomes less crucial. Another fascinating finding is the distinction between the quality and quantity of performance. Intrinsic motivation is more related to the quality of performance, while extrinsic motivation is linked to the quantity of performance. This fits well with reinforcement theory, which suggests that rewards are particularly effective when an organization wants to boost quantity. So in a nutshell, motivation does play a significant role in enhancing performance, but it's essential to consider the specific context and what kind of performance you're aiming for, quality or quantity. All right, now on to goal setting theory, another well-supported and super useful concept for motivation. Now suppose you, a student in this course, want to absolutely crush it this semester. To make that happen, you need to set goals, but not just any goals. There are 3 essential ingredients for goals that boost your performance. First, they need to be challenging. Aiming for a top mark, like a 6 or 7, will push you way more than just aiming for a pass. Second, they've got to be specific. Having a clear target, like getting that 6 or 7, is way better than a vague, I just want to do well. And finally, you need feedback along the way. Assignment marks, for example, or discussions with your tutor, so you can see how you're doing and adjust your strategy if needed. When you've got these elements in place, you'll find your effort, persistence, and planning all level up. But the impact of your goals also depends on whether you accept and commit to them. If a goal seems impossible, you might not put in that effort. So according to goal setting theory, the idea is you start with a specific, challenging, and accepted goal, which directs your attention, energizes you, and helps you stick with it. It also guides your strategy, pushing you to up your game and make adjustments where needed. This leads to better performance and feedback, and the cycle goes on, helping you continually grow and improve. Another crucial element to the goal-setting process is self-efficacy, which is all about believing in your ability to achieve a particular goal. It's different from self-esteem. Self-esteem is a more general sense of feeling positive or negative about yourself, while self-efficacy is task-specific. Your self-efficacy might be sky high for playing the guitar, but not so much for, say, cooking. Now, let's see how self-efficacy plays into the goal-setting process. Let's say your manager sets a goal for a project and you're brimming with self-efficacy. Guess what? You're more likely to accept that goal or maybe even set a higher one, and as a result, your performance gets a boost. But with self-efficacy, you can have too much of a good thing. Too much self-efficacy can actually backfire. Let's say you're aiming for top marks in this course, but you're so confident that you don't think you need to put in any effort. You might end up slacking off. So self-efficacy can be both your best friend and your worst enemy. In a nutshell, goal-setting theory has a lot going for it. The magic formula: specific, difficult goals that you set for yourself, combined with the ability and opportunities for feedback. That's how you unlock peak performance according to goal-setting theory. So what are some criticisms of goal-setting theory? For starters, it can be tough to objectively define how difficult a goal is. Quantitative goals like scoring a 7 in a course are easy to measure, but not all goals are that simple. How would you measure a goal like becoming a better person? Another thing to consider is that goal-setting theory mainly predicts performance, not well-being or other factors. Plus, it usually focuses on single goals or performance episodes, very specific situations, and not on the bigger picture. It doesn't take into account, say, organizational culture. In practice, the application of goal-setting theory principles is often called management by objectives. The idea is to take an organization's broad goals and values and break them down into more specific goals tailored to individual employees. For example, imagine a retail clothing shop aiming to increase its profits. That's a pretty broad goal, right? But with management by objectives, you could turn that goal into something more manageable for an individual sales associate, like increase personal sales by 10% within the next month. The key here is that employees are involved in the goal-setting process. Remember, goals tend to be more effective when they're chosen by the employee rather than assigned by a manager. So it's all about making sure the employee feels included and empowered in their goal-setting journey. And as we've discussed, there are a few key ingredients to creating a solid objective, and these are often summarized using the acronym SMART. A SMART goal is one that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So for our sales associate aiming to increase personal sales by 10% within the next month, let's see how it follows the SMART framework. Specific. The goal is well defined, focusing on increasing personal sales by a precise percentage. Measurable. The goal can easily be tracked by comparing the sales associate's current sales figures to their target of a 10% increase. Achievable. Assuming that sales associate is committed and has the necessary skills, a 10% increase is likely a reasonable and attainable goal. Realistic. The goal is grounded in reality, as it takes into consideration the sales associate's capabilities and the store's overall sales trends. Timely. The goal has a clear deadline, which is to be achieved within the next month. These principles are often used in the workplace to make goal setting more effective.